Good morning, Bante. I have a question regarding just now Bante was talking about the return on investment, right? When you give dana to the Sangha. So I can only talk on myself. Sometimes when I do dana, I felt that there's the sense of greed of wanting those merits. So I'm not sure if this is wholesome. I mean, like Bante was talking about, you can gain like long life and beauty, intelligence and all those things.
Right.
So there's a sense of guilt in me sometimes that it's not genuine, like when you do dana. So Bante, can you enlighten me on that? Thank you.
Excellent question. Let us now look at the other side. We talked about the recipient and what is important, but now our exact motivation when we give dana, the intention and also motivation. And the question here, if one has a kind of desire to get all these good things or the good karma one wants to get, whether that is anything wrong. First of all, please don't feel guilty about that. Because if you feel guilty about making good karma, you start diminishing your returns. If you make good karma, you should feel happy about it. You should feel rejoicing about your own acts of good karma, rejoicing in the good acts of karma of all the others. And if feelings of guilt start creeping in, you still have heaps of good karma, but it's no longer maximum. And very important, if two people give dana, and one of them has no conviction, no faith in the principle of karma, they do not believe that it will come back as happiness to them, because they don't believe in good karma, but they're still giving. And the other person is giving the same, everything the same, but they do have faith, they do have conviction in the principle of karma, and they do have faith and confidence that all their good action will come back to them as happiness. The second is making more good karma. Because right view, samadhi, is also a form of good karma. And if you give with a conviction that karma actually works, you have faith and trust in the Lord Buddha who taught karma, it is actually more good karma than giving without that faith and that conviction. So not so much a desire, but at least the conviction and the faith that these things will truly come back to me, that is actually something good and positive. However, you had a really important point, because we have to ask, what is the highest and best possible motivation for making good karma? Actually, whatever motivation you have, even if you only give out of habit, you always make good karma. Particularly if you give to the Sangha. So you're already making lots of good karma. We are now only talking, how can you make it even more? And with the right motivation, or the best possible motivation, you can even go still higher, even more. And there's a little story of Lady Visakha. Do you all know Lady Visakha? She was the foremost female lay disciple in terms of generosity, the female counterpart to Anathapindika. She was also a billionaire's banker's daughter and married to another billionaire banker, so she was extremely rich. But you would never become a Mahasavaka, declared by the Buddha to be the foremost, only because you're very rich. And once she came to the Buddha and she asked for 7 favors. Now the Buddhas don't give favors without knowing what they want. So he asked her, please explain. I'm not just signing into that. What do you want to do and why do you want to do it? And she said, no, I saw that the monks are bathing naked in the rain, and nakedness is repulsive. It doesn't look inspiring. I want to give a rain-bathing cloth to all the monks in Savatthi. You notice she's a billionaire, that she can actually make these requests even. And she wanted to do the same for the bhikkhunis. Then she said she has noticed it's difficult maybe for monks when they are sick to get suitable food, special food for sick monks. So for all the monks in Savatthi, I want to give special food when they're sick. And then she was so smart, she said, even for the attendant of the sick, it may be difficult for them to go on alms round. They have to look after a sick person, nursing them. Want to give food to them as well. And then monks who are newly arriving, they don't know the alms round yet. I want to give a special meal for monks who arrive newly. Then monks going on a journey, I want to give a special meal for monks who are leaving on a big journey, because they have to leave early, no time going for alms round. And you may notice, and she's obviously a billionaire, the ability to do all of that, and for all the monks in Savatthi, you got to be rich. But now the Buddha is actually asking, why do you want to do that? And she answered that. And she didn't say, because I want to be even richer in my next life, or I want to be a queen in the Devaloka. But what she said, if I do all these things, and occasionally the Buddha is actually declaring that a certain monk or nun has attained Nibbana, has become an Arhat, has attained full liberation, awakening. And I can be very sure that this monk or nun probably used my bathing cloth at some stage, or used my food for the sick at some stage, or used my food for newly arriving or newly leaving monks. And then I would feel so happy that I have supported their practice, leading them to attaining Nibbana. I would feel so happy about that. I would have paramodja in Pali. And when I feel that happiness, that paramodja, I could develop rapture, piti. And when I develop rapture, piti, my mind can experience tranquility, passaddhi. And the mind who is tranquil and has got passaddhi, they will experience bliss. And the blissful mind is able to unify in samadhi. And when my mind experiences samadhi, that will be the crucial support that I can develop the 7 factors of enlightenment, the 5 faculties, the Noble Eightfold Path, and that I can realize liberation myself. The Buddha said, bingo, you got your 7 favors. Actually, he didn't say bingo, but he just accepted that she could do all of these things because of that explanation. Because she fully understood how the practice of generosity, of only dana, so to speak, of giving, is actually a support for the deeper practices in bhavana, because it gives you this wholesome happiness. It gives you that joy, that rapture, that is not sensual joy or rapture, but that is rapture and joy and connected with the Dhamma. And she was so happy that she is not just giving, but that she is supporting monks and nuns in their practice towards Nibbana. That is her happiness. So she has a very good understanding how the practice of generosity impacts her mind. She wasn't primarily interested in the good karma in the next life. She was interested, what does the practice of generosity do to my mind already right now? And she understood, and if she has experienced, it makes her so happy in a good, wholesome way, not sensual happiness. And she understood from her own practice that this happiness helps her, supports her to develop rapture, bliss, samadhi. And then she understood that samadhi helps her to develop wisdom, insight, the whole Eightfold Path, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and is another support for her to liberate her own heart. And that is the very highest motivation you can have. If you want to train your motivation for giving, that is the highest motivation. not just the good karma you get back in terms of beauty, happiness in the future life, but you observe carefully with mindfulness what is dana, generosity, doing to your heart right now, and you notice that happiness. And then you're not only delighting in that happiness, but you actively use it, that happiness, to help your mind to deepen your samadhi. And then you use that samadhi to develop vipassana, insight, wisdom. That's what you're aiming at. And if you do that, then you have got the highest possible motivation you can have for giving generosity. How many of you have heard that story of Lady Visakha? Do you know that story? It's actually in the Vinaya. And for that reason, I notice often the lay community is not aware of it. It's absolutely beautiful. And the way she explains to the Buddha why she wants to give so much generosity, and her deep understanding how generosity is actually supporting her own practice of bhavana. Now that was a crucial one for the Buddha, to declare her the foremost of all female donors. It wasn't the fact that she's a billionaire, it was her understanding how generosity can be used for bhavana up to the highest stage of liberation. So thanks so much for that question. Very good one.
Bhante, I have another question. I went temple hopping in Thailand recently, and I'm just wondering, when I go to the temple in Thailand, the monks give amulets. So I'm actually hesitating to actually take the amulets, so I'm not sure if the amulets, it's superstitious. I don't know what to do with it.
Another very good question. That's very common. I got some amulets from a fellow monk, blessed by, I think, half a dozen Kuba Ajahns, which he very kindly gave me. I would suggest that it depends on your mind. It can be both. You can use amulets in a way which is basically just superstition, or at least not really with any deeper understanding of the Dhamma, or you can use them in a very positive and supportive way for your Dhamma practice. And the way I see it, the important thing is, what does the amulet to your mind? It's the same with relics. If you get relics of the Buddha or of Savakas, then you put it on your shrine. If this is just like accumulating material wealth, you just get this amulet, you don't care about what it does to your mind, but you just put it there, and then I've got more amulets than someone else, and I've got the more powerful ones. I may have got a Somdet-do, a real Somdet-do, will protect me now. Now that is a very, it's not a deep understanding. And in my opinion, the best way of using them is, if this amulet can serve that the quality of saddha, of faith, conviction, devotion to the triple gem or to a particular Kuba Ajahn can increase in your mind, then that is obviously wholesome. Or could be anything wrong about that amulet? Because having more saddha is obviously good. It's one of the panchindriyas, one of the 5 spiritual faculties. If it leads to you having more mindfulness, there's another of the 5 faculties, the sati. And maybe when you wear that amulet, your sati is better because you make a bigger effort. Now you think, no, I'm wearing this from all the Kuba Ajahns, and I have that around my neck. And now I have to be mindful how I act. And it starts with little things, just this pivot string. Put a pivot string around your wrist. And when I do that, when I give people pivot string, I sometimes remind them, and I say, this is meant as a reminder. When you see that, you can't do anything against the Dhamma, against the precept with his hand now. Before you do that action, you see that pivot string, you're tied to the triple gem now. The power is not in that string so much, but in what it does to your mind. If you wear an amulet and you feel, no, maybe it has even, or you have a Buddha relic on your shrine, And you feel in this womb, now I really have to behave myself now. How can I break the precepts in this womb? If the Buddha is physically present, so to speak, now this is from the Buddha's body. You've got the Buddha physically present on your shrine. So when you're in that womb, you have a very high sense of hiri ottappa, of shame and conscience, incredible wholesome qualities. So this Buddha relic may increase your sense of hiri ottappa, of shame and conscience, and you refrain from doing unskillful, unwholesome things. How could there be anything wrong about that relic, about that amulet? And that is a reason that sometimes very highly respected Ajahns like Luang Por Anand from Wat Mapchan, he's giving them out quite a bit. Ajahn Chah tradition, Ajahn Chah's personal one was that he didn't work much with that at all. He probably saw more the danger that people use it in an unskillful way. But in my opinion, if you use them in a wholesome way, it's definitely possible. And the wholesome way of using them, you accept an amulet, and then you use it as a support to strengthen your faith, to strengthen your devotion. You use it as a support to strengthen your mindfulness, to strengthen your virtue, your commitment. While you wear that amulet, you feel, now I really have to keep the 5 precepts now. And in fact, if someone doesn't keep the 5 precepts, to my knowledge, it will not work so well anyhow. And so, in my opinion, it will depend on how you use them. And if you use them to increase wholesome qualities in your own mind, then it's all good and fine.
Thank you, Bhante.